Hello everybody and welcome to another guide, and this time another setup guide. This time we find ourselves in Bahrain, and this is gonna be a long one again. And I suggest we're gonna jump straight in to the aerodynamics. Front wing is quite a topic. You can run 2 front wing in the race, is pretty much mandatory, but 3 front wing, for example, in quali is very strong as well if you can make use of the extra aero. For the rear wing, it's mostly a decision between 7 and 8. 9 is possible for pure quali, but you just lose too much straight line speed that you're not competitive enough in the race anymore, even though it can help with tires. 2.7 is basically a bit better for race, but 2.8 is just safer. You have a more stable rear out of the corners, and traction is always going to be a problem. So you're either usually you run like 3.8 wings in quali, 2.8 wings in the race, or just 2.7 wings and 3.7. One of those stuff. Um, on throttle 50 as always. Off throttle diff is quite low. You have many slow corners, so off throttle diff is quite strong. It is important to remember that turn 4 is very hard for the off throttle, so it is recommended to increase the brake bias for that corner alone to 51 to make sure that the rear does not step out. If you're running 2.9 wings, you should run 51 brake bias, 2.8 is 52, and 2.7 is usually 53 brake bias. So that's kind of how you adjust this to make this stable. We have right, left 0.08 and 0.2 on the suspension geometry. Very interesting here is that you can actually decrease in the front camber a bit if you want to make the setup more stable. This really helps. It did cost me a bit of quali pace though, so I did not like it. But it allows you, for example, to then run more front toe and then add a tad of rear toe to be really strong out of slow corners. So for example, this suspension geometry is extremely strong out of slow corners, but I did not like it that much. So I just removed the rear toe, decreased the front toe, and went to right left. Just be a bit more boring in that case. But this is something that you can mess with. It's the last part of the setup that I will tweak, which brings me to the suspension settings, which are 110, 110, 6.3. 1.9 suspension is totally viable. I wouldn't use a 111, it's way too aggressive. The tires, the tire wear will be insane. 110 just gives you the most, 110 or 1.9 just gives you the best turn-in. Actually, Bahrain is a roll bar aggressive track, so you would rather run 1.9 suspension and go more aggressive on the roll bar than be more aggressive on the suspension, which is weird if you think about it, but it makes sense because traction is so difficult, and lower rear suspension helps with traction the most. But I thought I was quite good on traction, so I left it at 110. 110 roll bar, quali setups run 111, but that is just too aggressive, so you just put it down once. And then we have inverted right height. This is bad for quali, but it is important for the race to be able to overtake. I think at this point I must confess that this was a setup that was not directed at quali. I was fully going for P11 and trying the alternative strategy. I ended up doing hard to soft actually because there were so many people ahead of me on the alternative strategy. So I did hard to soft instead of hard to medium. And that worked out well. Like if I had good hard pace, I could have gotten way more points. 5.3 is also fine, and if you would be running 2.7 wings, you can also just run 2.3 right height. Brake pressure is 150 as always. At least for the brake pressure. For the bias, you actually up this in quali in turn 4 to 51, then put it down again. And in the race, if you want to just save tires, you up this to 51, and if you want to do like a hard soft, you up this on to 52 on the hard tire to be a bit more safe. But if you want to push, you keep this at 50, because it costs you quite a lot of time upping this, actually. It increases the chance of lockups, and you have to brake differently, and it's awkward. Tire pressure is minimum as usual. So, large part of the video strategy-wise, I would recommend that if you can get top 5, you start, you go for it and do soft hard. You should try and extend the soft stint as much as possible, so like lap 9 or lap 10. Use 51 or 52 brake bias for that. If you can't do that, you should try and qualify for P11. If you get exactly P11, medium hard is very strong because you can keep up with the soft runners, with the medium, which you would not be able to do on the hard usually if your league is very close in pace. If the slower cars on P10 are quite slow though, then you could also just start on the hard tire and do the hard to medium or hard to soft strategy. So this is always something to keep in mind, is how strong are the people ahead of you, because getting the DRS in the first laps is vital. You can drain all of your battery in the first laps if you're starting outside of the top 10, if it means that you are able to stick with the person in front of you that is on a softer compound of tire. That is just so much more valuable, and you regain ERS anyway, so this is important. That's why I chose to have so much straight line speed, because it allows me to be very fast on the straights and keep up with the people at the start of the stint where I'm understeering endlessly. In terms of fuel, last note, you will want to have quite a lot of fuel, like +2, +3 laps maybe even, so you can freely push once you have clean air. If you're doing the soft hard strat, you can use a bit of less fuel because your engine is going to be overheating all the time. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.